Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friend, Joel Spencer, and we are here to bring you the very best of the Bearcats every single week. We are part of the 1012 network, so if you aren't already, make sure to follow our pages on all our platforms, and as well, check out the 1012 network for all the best coverage of the Big 12. And also, shout out to our sponsors, Charlie Hustle. We're going to show you some great gear later on in the show. Joel, kind of covered some of this in the spaces after the game live. However, might as well unpack it a little bit more. The Bearcats, unfortunately, lose on the road in Lubbock, 44-41. Tight game, 3 points. It sucks, but I think there was a lot of positives around it. I think the vibes felt they were pretty good. People felt pretty good after it, even though it was a loss. I think there's still going to be some people who don't want to hear the excuses. However, I do think that this was a pretty solid game for the Bearcats in a few different areas. Weak in some, strong in the others. What are your initial reactions to how this past weekend went?
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's also very encouraging. It's kind of that weird bittersweetness because, of course, it sucks that we got the loss, but at the same time, we hung tight in a Big 12 shootout, and that was all the talk leading up to the game was it's going to be high scoring, like your offense better show up. And they showed up. We had a few mistakes. We missed 2 kicks. We threw the pick 6, and the game's looking a lot different if just those 3 things are eliminated. But you can't talk about the what ifs. You have to talk about what actually happened. We unfortunately come away with a loss, but it's not all doom and gloom like we felt after our last loss this year. So definitely some encouraging things to take away from it.
Yeah. And, I think if you kind of want to like unpack this a little bit more, looking at Texas Tech's performance in it, looking at the Bearcats' performance, the biggest storyline, I think, for at least the defense, Texas Tech, typical Tech game, they're going to let up some points. And I'll say probably even more surprising that they let up as many points as they did, given that Corey Kiner and Evan Pryor were out for a good chunk of the game. Kiner going out on the first drive, I believe. If it wasn't first drive, it was like first 2 drives, which is a really shitty situation. And we're hoping that he's going to be up to full speed when we get UCF after this bye week this week. But
I could not find any injury update as of Tuesday night when we're recording this. So
I could not either.
The bye week came at a good time.
Yeah. And I didn't see if there was a presser today. I actually forgot to check. But there might be some more information there. So head over to Go Bearcats Football and check that out if you're looking for some more answers. And, we should be better prepared. But I don't think there's any answer on that yet. Regardless, losing Corey in that game was obviously a huge impact. Definitely made it a little bit tougher to try to burn some yards on the ground. However, what you couldn't make up for on the ground, you certainly made up for in the air. Brendan Sorsby looked fantastic in this game. He's looking great across the entire season. And we can unpack. We had some stats to actually list off for him in the next segment here, but we might as well list them off for this section because it covers this game and we'll cover the full season so far. Joel, hit us with how he performed in this game because Sorsby's performance, I think, was really, really strong here today or this past weekend.
Sorsby's got it. I mean, whatever critique you have or whatever, skill that you look for in a college quarterback, he's got it. He's the real deal. 31 for 45, 426 yards passing, 52 rushing on the ground. So almost accounting for 500 yards just by himself and 4 passing touchdowns. There's not much more you could have wanted from him in this game.
Yeah. I mean, even if you don't want to look at the stats, if you look at the performance too, like if you watch the full game end to end, first quarter to fourth quarter, first whistle to final whistle, like this kid was hauling cheeks the entire time. Like he was a man on a mission in a way that like you haven't seen. You've seen some Bearcats perform. They play tough every single week. And, I think a guy like Corey Kiner obviously is a dog. Like he's the kind of guy, like you look at him, he just hustles for every single play. Sorsby with the passing game, with the running game, like he was trying to put the entire team onto his back and carry that to a victory. And he almost did it. Damn it if he did, damn it if he didn't. But like, I think what he did in this game was really, really impressive and just goes to show the long-term future that you have with him. assuming that you can keep him through the next few seasons. But he looks like he could be a Sunday player. And that's something that I think in a game like this, that's really important to, take away from that. And that's, I think, why so many people feel so positive after this game too.
Look, he's a sophomore, so he's young, and he's not really showing that he's got a lot of growing pains. He looks like a seasoned vet. He led a 2-minute drill almost flawlessly. And touching on those last 2 minutes, there's a lot of frustrations there, of course. There's a lot of things to be mad about when it comes to, almost 30 seconds being run off the clock, whether it is the 10-second rundown after they reviewed the call that wasn't a call. There was the official who let Texas Tech take their sweet time getting their defensive subs out there, just holding the ball, not letting us snap it.
Long time.
There was a lot of clock that was left to be desired that really would have made the difference. And then you can also talk about the run play that was called on that second down before we set up for the field goal. Sorsby's slinging it. We are cooking this defense, marching down the field in this final 2 minutes. Keep the ball in your best player's hands. Let Sorsby make something happen. And we run the ball, and it's a designed run, and it just ticks more seconds off the clock. And that's something that's just so valuable there at the end. Yes, you can be mad at the refs. Yes, you can be mad about, that run call. We also missed those 2 kicks, and one of those was at the very end to tie the game. And, we came into this game saying, we've got a college kicker. I said it on the last episode. Like, we have all the pieces in place to be a great college team. And I specifically touted our kicker. 2 misses that you can't have in this type of shootout, this type of close game where every point matters. And it sucks.
The Joel curse.
It is the Joel curse. It sucks, but that's also the reality of college sports. Never leave anything up in the air. And unfortunately, there were just too many mistakes like that left us hanging in the end.
Yeah, a whole lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And you talked about that final drive. This is a thing that I actually did want to unpack this week, so I'm glad that you touched on that a bit. The biggest things is, like, if you look at that final drive, you got 1:30 left on the clock, right? 1:26. Henderson goes down on that first play of that drive. That takes 10 seconds off the clock. This downs rule, I honestly don't even. It sucks because we're going to feel biased towards it or against it because it affected us negatively. However, looking at it from a holistic point of view, I still think the rule kind of sucks. Like, it's one of those things where you're trying to penalize an offense for faking an injury because there's a lot of teams that do it. So you get to that final stretch. You don't want a team to basically get a free timeout because they're got a player down on the field. However, if a player goes down and they're out for the rest of the game, which Henderson was, he didn't go back in on that drive. Taking 10 seconds off the clock just feels like, all right, what the hell are we doing here? Yeah. Because you eat 10 seconds off the clock from that play. You then go forward. Of course, there's that targeting section, which, again, like, there's always some kind of call that goes with targeting. So even if you pull targeting off the board, you throw the flag. If you've thrown a flag, even though Sorsby's around waving his hands up, you throw the flag because some ref saw a call. You're going to throw a flag. You're not just going to do it because, a player's pissed off. You see something, you throw a flag. See something, say something. You see something like that, and you throw that flag, you cannot penalize the team that you threw a flag in favor of by taking 10 seconds off the clock because you changed your mind. If anything, you whistle the play dead, you whistle the clock dead, and it stays there and you restart. But don't, God forbid, in any circumstance, take an extra 10 seconds off the clock from that team because you threw a flag in their favor. Now you just went from helping them to hurting them. If anything, it should be null and void. No advantage for either team. And that's the part that sucks, is because you eat, not only that, you also you're not giving them 15 yards too, which if you have the helmet to helmet contact that's targeting, those 15 yards would have been massive in that final kick. So you lose the 15 yards and 10 seconds. That's huge. That is a huge momentum killing situation.
Absolutely. And it's not even like in the NFL, you challenge a play, it comes back and nope, call is upheld. You lose a timeout. Great. Like, that's an absolutely fair, fair drawback to that challenge. This wasn't an initiated challenge. This was the official making the choice to go and review. And like you said, they reviewed for targeting, but there's still another penalty that underlies the targeting call. So it's just so you want to pull your hair out while you're watching that. And my wife and I were on the couch and I was just saying, don't move. Like the entire last drive, I just said, don't move. We're driving. Things are going our way. Don't move. And even during that review, even during all the shenanigans of the drive, commercial breaks, whatever it was, we just sat exactly where we were. Stayed, like my leg went numb. My arm was on the back of the couch. We were just sitting there because you're superstitious when you watch sports. Everyone is, even if you don't want to admit that you are. And it felt like it was going our way. We were on that drive, like we were going to make this happen. And then just hit after hit after hit, like was just taking it down. So it's very, very tough that's how the game ended. Even if it was a missed kick and all those 30 seconds didn't happen, so, like whatever else could have happened on missed plays, poor execution, it's still a last second kick and we lose. Yes, it's disappointing. It might not be as frustrating, but with all the extra things thrown in there, it's kind of inexcusable.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I think when you look at that too, like you have in total, if you want to just go for the full summary of that situation, you had 20 seconds taken off between the targeting call that got called off. So there's 10. You lose 10 for the Henderson thing. You lose about 12 to 13 for the Tech defense, just waltzing onto the field, having no hustle, which of course they're not going to, but that's a situation where like the refs should have called a defensive delay of game. Correct. Guess when we got a defensive delay of game, that cost us the Pitt game. So instead you there's one that's clearly missed, but they're going to call them earlier in the season. So regardless, you lose a good 33, 34 seconds. And then also to your point earlier about that run too, that, that rush in that point in time, it's actually not even a badly designed play because if you look at the entire game, you got a minute 30 on the clock, you are moving the ball fast, but now you're looking at it's like, okay, if we run the ball, we can move it a little bit, but let's position ourselves where we need to be, A, but B, you got a minute 30 left and you're moving it. You might be in a situation where you're going to score a touchdown and you don't want to give Tech the ball back. Yeah. So you're in that late game situation and Tech has scored on all but 2 drives the entire game, which I meant to come back to and we never did. All but 2 drives in this game, Tech scored. You punt that first one and then, turnover and downs on the second drive. And then the final drive that Tech had, they punted. Those are the only 2 times that they did not score any points at all. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those situations that you just look at as like, well, strategically, you want to be scoring a touchdown with 2 seconds left, and you want to give no chance for Tech to even throw the ball.
The defense stepped up when it absolutely mattered the most. They gave us that chance at the very end. Yep. And this isn't even a game where you can blame Satterfield. You can't blame the play calling in this game.
You can
say what you will, take the sound bites from our first couple episodes of this year. This game is not on Sat. It's on 100%. All of the frustrations from the final 2 minutes, from factors that we had no say in, and then of course just the 2 missed kicks throughout the game, the pick 6. It's those types of scoring opportunities. The fumble, absolutely. All of those things would have completely changed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember if it was a touchdown or a field goal. Let's call it 3. Let's call it 7. You got 3 there that you lose on that fumble at least. I'd have to go back and double check. You lose 7 on that pick 6, and then 2 missed field goals. That's 6 off the board. So quick math, I'm going to sound like, wow, this is bad. At least 10, if not 14, plus a -6 of what you could have had with your 2 missed kicks. That's almost 20 points that got put on and left off the board, like in total, that were just things that are in your control, but also are just, that's a thing that you can't put on Satterfield. So you could have won that game by some points. You also cost yourself some situations with that fumble and that pick 6, which are just unfortunate situations. It's part of the game. Sorsby's been a laser all season long. There's nobody that's going to look at that and say, all right, you threw one bad ball. We get over it. It's fine. The Covey fumble, sucks. It's also or prior fumble. It sucks, but it's part of the game. It happens, and turnovers are a part of the game. So again, like you said, I don't think any of this really goes on Sat. And I as much as I think so many people want to just keep pushing Sat out, what you're seeing is like it's working. And credit to him for the play calling throughout the game. Credit to Sorsby, credit to the offense, for executing to the game plan and being able to also not only execute to the game plan. This is the thing that we talked about all last season. I know this is more like me and Steve talking about this, but like even into this season, Satterfield has shown us one big struggle that we have had a lot of the time last year and this year, which is it looked like there was a lack of an ability to adapt. This is your picture perfect lesson on adaptability. Like this game, your running game goes out the window and you still find a way to survive and score 40 points. That's impressive, and kudos to you. I'm giving him a hand for that.
For sure. And that's the big takeaway from this game. We're fun. We were in a shootout, high scoring offense. We can hang with any Big 12 team. Like we just proved it. Texas Tech is one of the most high scoring offenses in the Big 12. And we were, it was unfortunate that we were in the same time slot as the Georgia-Alabama game, but there was a lot of national attention on this game being as fun as it was.
Yeah. And, I think that's the biggest thing that I look at, and you kind of touched on that too. This game, it ends up 44-41. If you were to take off the pick six, your defense is holding the second best offense in the Big 12 and one of the top offenses in the country to 30-some points. You take the Covey fumble, you take another 3 and or 7. I got to find out where that's at. That actually ended up because that was at the beginning of the second half. Fumble leads to a touchdown. So you take 14 points off of that, and instead of 44, it's 30. You hold Tech to 30. That's very tough. Hold Tech to 30 in Lubbock. Very impressive. But again, more shoulda, couldas, what ifs. Regardless, I think the game had a lot of positives to take away, and I think we can feel pretty good about it. Joel, we've talked plenty on that game. Let's just dig into it a little bit more. Not this whole thing, but the offense, and more specifically, Brendan Sorsby. Sorsby has looked phenomenal this year, if I can speak correctly. Sorsby has looked phenomenal this year in ways that we have not seen in quite some time. You look back at Dez's era, and it was fantastic. Clearing away, I think, the best performing quarterback through all 4 of his years here in a career like that. That can't be touched. Third winningest quarterback of all time in Bearcats history. That's great. Yeah. There are going to be different storylines. However, what you have with Sorsby right now is a completely different player in a level of passer that is elite. Like we said, like this is a guy like Dez you looked at and it's like, okay, he has some potential for, maybe playing in the NFL once he gets to the end of his senior year. Sorsby's the kind of guy that if he really cruises this year and Cincinnati's winning, and not only winning, but winning because of him, if you go into this year or into next year, this is a guy that could leave early as a quarterback. I think he has that potential, and I think he has that skill.
For sure. He has shown everything that you look for. He's got all the star capabilities. He's got every trait. When you are booting up NCAA and you're choosing, what your skill tree is and what star you want to be, he's got it all. He is exactly what you want out of a college quarterback. He can do it with his legs. He is just slinging the football all down the field. We just had the most passing yards by a Cincinnati quarterback since 2015.
Yep.
He's putting up numbers that we haven't seen in so long. He's got 1,400 passing yards already on the year, 12 touchdowns, and he just threw his first interception in week 5. He is not looking like a sophomore at all. He looks like a 3rd or 4th year quarterback, and it's so exciting to have that this early in his career.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, this is the thing that I kind of talked about on our spaces after the show or after the game, but this is the one thing about his one interception that honestly just really frustrates me for him. Not even as a fan, because I don't even care. The part that frustrates me for him is the fact that, like, in that interception, he's getting rushed, he drops back, and like all situations, what do you do in that situation? If you're getting so much pressure, you have nowhere to throw it. You either throw it out of bounds or you eat that sack and you go down to the ground. What does he do? Makes one boneheaded play and throws it straight over the center directly into the Tech defense. Like, there's no question. Like, it was just a bad choice. And it sucks because, like, you've seen him make so many really, really good passes and really good choices all season, and he makes one pass like that. I just look at that as like, well, I mean, he's a sophomore. Like, he's young. He's going to know that he's going to learn from that situation. And if anything, it's probably good because you haven't seen him throw a pick at all yet this year. You see him throw that pass, and it's like, he's going to look at that and he's going to say, okay, you know what? I know better than that. I know that I just need to hold on to the ball there, or I need to do something different than what I did and just let it go. Because if he didn't have that, I mean, you mentioned, or I don't think you actually touched on this yet with the CBS Sports ranking.
Nope. That was next up.
CBS Sports ranking has CBS Sports has Sorsby ranked as a still top 10 quarterback through week 5 in the country. That is just awesome to see a Bearcat in the mix. But again, like, you know, people like that at the higher stage aren't going to look at the full game. They're going to look at stats. Yep. And if you don't look at the stats and you look at the player, it's incredible. If you look at the stats and you see that one interception, it's like, God, man, if he didn't have that one, like, you're talking about like what people would perceive in the statistical sense as like a top 5 quarterback in the country. But that one stupid little move just, you know, shakes the trees a little bit. But regardless, his performance this season has been phenomenal. I've been very impressed with the way he's been able to move. Like I said, in comparison to Dez was a very good runner out on the to the left and to the right and in the backfield, and was able to kind of create some drives pushing up the right or left. Sorsby, like, he finds time, and it's not just like the offensive line. It's not just all of these other pieces. Like, he finds time. He's very aware of his surroundings, and he has that pocket presence and the presence when scrambling amongst the rest of the field. He puts himself in great positions all the time. And then he also has a very good sense of when to go and when to stay, when to throw it out and when to like fight for those yards. And so many times he's putting you in first down situations on like a 3rd and 4. Like, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are going to go out there into a toothy running defense and go for those yards themselves, like straight up the middle. Like, this guy's tough. He's got it.
When he is not being taken to the ground, he has fantastic vision. He is finding receivers, not even the ones that are open. He's finding guys and dropping dimes, like putting it right in the bucket where you'd expect guys who play on Sunday to make those types of throws. He has a pocket presence. Like you said, he knows when to run. He knows when to hang tight and wait for the receiver to get open. It's it's awesome to see and to have that on our team.
Yeah. And you know, like, I think Dez really loved the like sort of slant routes. He loved playing anything with a little post play. I think those are great. Sorsby's like accuracy in a lot of these situations is impressive because he's so good in the middle of the field, in the short field, long, on the edge, like in every point. Like, there's not really a section of the field where you feel like, oh, he's got the short game, but he doesn't have the long ball, or he's got the deep ball, but he can't make accurate short passes. Like, this guy feels like a complete quarterback who can play every inch of the football field. And what he can't do, or not what he can't do, when he doesn't have the option to move it through the air, he's doing it on the ground himself. And that's just impressive. And like I said, I've been nothing but impressed by Sorsby so far. I'm really, really excited, at least for the rest of this season, and to see what the rest of his future brings here. Real quick, list off that PFF grade too.
Yeah. Pro Football Focus has him 8th this week in quarterback performance in the country, 87.9 grade. And CBS Sports also has him 10th in quarterback ranking so far this year. And that's power ranking. So that's, you know, based on stats, but also that passes the eye test too. So he's getting this national attention. He is 17th total in the country for QBR right now. He's really up there in terms of passing yards too. So he's got it all. I mean,
eighth in the country for passing yards as well.
yeah, that's pretty damn good.
When's the
It's
last time you'd say that about a Bearcats offense?
Oh man, it's a great change of pace from what we've had in the past. And the ways of old, where I say old, and it's really just a few years ago, but it seems like forever ago, just in terms of how quickly sports ages Cincinnati fans. But the ways of old, where it's the stout defense, it's the grind out games, find a way to win at the end, versus kind of the new guard of, no, we're going to score, and that's it. That's the game plan. It's a hard adjustment, especially when you're so used to a certain style of play. But so far this year, it's been a very welcoming change, and I'm excited to see where it can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you look across the board as to, where you can seek some more consistency for the entire rest of the season, I think you're going to find it with Sorsby. I think what he offers you week to week is going to be a package like that again, what the thing I feel so good about watching this Texas Tech game is I know that if we're missing that run element to our game, I can feel confident we can do it through the air. And if he's so good in the air, it's such a threat that it also opens up the running game in another option. It's kind of like the classic option. It's like you look at that as like there's a potential of something happening on the field. And there's not really, and this is what I think works so well with Satterfield's offense, is there's not like one singular identity that everything has to run through. You have such a split attack that it allows your offense to be really effective. So
yeah,
we'll see how the rest of this goes. But
one more note that I had, in the NFL, we are also, just a few weeks in, quarter of the way through the season, and it's already mock draft season. So as great as Sorsby has been, there is still a ton of other standouts on this Bearcats team. Specifically, Luke Kandra, I saw mocked in the first round, top 20 pick. It was disappointing to see where he was mocked to, because it was Baltimore. And I don't want him to be a part of that running game that affects.
How many Bearcats have gone to the everywhere but Cincinnati? My God.
You've got Jerome Ford and James Hudson on the Browns. You've got, it's a rough one.
Yeah,
but anyways,
Chris Moore and way too long.
Yeah, that's true. But we can talk Bearcats in the pros another time. But yeah, it was just really cool to see that the Bearcats still have a presence in the first round.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of Bearcats, it's a bye week, which means our Viva La Cash is actually going to be a little bit different than Bearcats. A little bit unexpected, but
what are we going to talk about, Justin?
What are we going to talk about? Joel, we're going to talk about other teams, because that's what we're doing for our Viva La Cash this week. So traditionally, we're always going to take the Bearcats in their money line, their total, their spread. We're going to do that. However, since it's a bye week, no Bearcats are playing. Joel and I each picked a team this week that we're going to choose for our Viva La Cash. It is a bye week, which means bonus week, which means that with those two games, there's an opportunity for 3 more points for each of those. Technically 5 if you include the final score predictions. So, Joel, who did you pick this week?
Look, if you're anything like us out there, you're big on social media. Whether or not you post a lot, but me personally, I just consume a lot of social media. Definitely not healthy. Not going to get into that right now. But there's one presence in the Big 12 that I do not want to be on his bad side, and that is Cyclone Larry of Iowa State fandom. If there is one guy you do not want to roast you and send the brigade on you, it's going to be him. So this week, with no Bearcats, having the option to choose another team to root for, got to go with the Cyclones.
Joel's going with the Cyclones. And as I mentioned last week, and I was continuing to mention in the weeks prior to that, and last season and this season, it's a good time to be a Cougar fan. and not a Houston Cougar fan. It is a good time to be a BYU
Oh,
Cougar fan.
yep.
Very different situation for the Cougars in the Big 12. I think BYU is just so much fun to watch. Like you saw it obviously with the K-State game. You saw it even with the Baylor game this past week. We're going to dig into some more of these, but fun team. So BYU is my second team. They're my team for the week this week. So Joel, we're going to pick the total, the spread, and the money line for each of these games this week. And then we're going to have to figure out how many points we're going to get. This past week, I'm going to do a better job of getting the totals before we get into the show. But be on the lookout for our graphics that'll drop either tomorrow or Thursday, or Wednesday or Thursday, if you're listening on Wednesday.
Let me just say as well, first time in Beeville Cats history last week where we predicted a push and it happened.
Yep.
So I don't know what's in the air. Gonna go buy a lottery ticket, but my final score prediction last week for the Bearcats was 48-45, and of course we were down 44-41. But you include the 2 missed field goals, we win 47-44. Not too far off my prediction. So just saying. I am not really that big of a gambler, but something was in the water where I got that one pretty close.
Close but no cigar. Close but no cigar.
Only counts in horseshoes.
Yeah, exactly. And hand grenades. And
horseshoes and hand grenades.
Speaking of hand grenades, we have a hand grenade of a game here. We have BYU in Arizona. Joe, spread on that game. BYU, 1.5 point dogs in that game.
Ooh.
How does that work? How does a number 17? Is this right? Did you put this in right? There's no way this is right. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to double check
right.
this. Huh?
I think I put it in right.
Let's see. I would be amazed.
I was on FanDuel.
FanDuel might have different lines. That's possible. Okay. Well, let's jump to the next one, and I'm going to figure this out. Joel, okay. Our other game, Iowa State and Baylor.
Great radio.
Yeah, Iowa State and Baylor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Baylor's look. The last couple of weeks have not gone Baylor's way. They have lost in heartbreaking fashion, and they are 12.5 point dogs to Iowa State. I think this is probably going to be another heartbreaker. I do think Baylor's going to cover, but I think Iowa State still comes out on top in the end.
That is very, very fair. So poor judgment by me. I'm gonna take the L on this one. I'm gonna take a lap. I did all this hype up about BYU, 5-0 BYU, go Cougs. They have a bye this week. So really? I set you up for failure. Yeah, they do have a bye this week. They play Arizona next weekend. But that's probably why you have a future spread like that. That's tight.
What the hell was I looking at?
But I don't know. Regardless, I'll pick a different team, but we're going
to my game's for this weekend.
Yeah, your game is for this weekend. Correct. Yes, mine is not, because I forced you to put BYU lines on there, and that is not correct. However, Iowa State, with this game with Baylor, I really do think Iowa State is a pretty good team. How they will perform in this game is, I don't know. It's up in the air, because Iowa State, I always look for as my team to kind of like do enough to like look interesting, but always come up short. That's Iowa State's just bread and butter. They haven't really played too many teams this year. So far through this season's schedule, they played North Dakota State, Iowa, Arkansas State, and Houston. They've won every game, and they have a good defense. They have let up 3, 19, 7, and 0 points in those 4 games. However, did you hear the games I listed off? Iowa State has not played a team worth a shit yet this year. Iowa, I'll give them, because Iowa, you won in Kinnick. That's a great game, but Iowa's also Iowa, and they're not going to put points on the board. You haven't played a team that is well-rounded. I don't know. I think Baylor's going to cover that spread. Yep. I think the 12.5 point spread, I think Baylor's going to cover it. I do think Iowa State will win, so I will pick Iowa State to win that game. However, I do think Baylor's covering that spread. And as for the total, 45.5, I'd take the under there. Iowa State's going to play defense, and they're going to make them play their game. So,
I mean, you're stealing all my picks because you don't have a game for this week, do you? So,
nope. Well,
how embarrassing!
Hey, your pick. We both have to pick. You have to pick for BYU and not BYU now, and I have to pick for Iowa State because, like I said, this is bonus week. So,
I think BYU will have a great time this week. I think that they will drink lots of non-carbonated beverages, and I think that they will enjoy this fall weather. How about that? Those are my picks for BYU this week.
There you go. There you go. Joel, real quick, hit me with it. Iowa State, final picks.
I'm also going under. You know what? No, I'll root for the over. It's no fun to bet the under. Plus, that at least puts us against each other.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay,
so Baylor to cover. I'm betting the over. Justin, what's your score prediction?
Score prediction of that game. I'm gonna say 27-20. Weird score.
27-20. I'm gonna go 31-24.
31-24. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Joel, of course, poor choice there in picking BYU. I did not clearly pay attention. So in the midst of that, this is my backup game. This is actually my Electric Factory game of the week. And this is also one of my picks for Viva Cash this week too. So we're just going to wrap it all up into this one. And we're going to both pick this one. This is offense game of the week for sure. By no questions asked. Texas Tech, Arizona. You're asking for the most offensive game possible this entire season. Texas Tech 4-1. Of course, they just came off beating the Bearcats. Boo Red Raiders. And Arizona 3-1, coming fresh off of beating number 10 Utah. We got some things to talk about there too. However, Joel, this game as it currently sits, the over under on that 63.5. 63.5. And that's juicy, but in my mind, it's a little low. It's a little low, personally. Everybody can pick what you want on that, but I think that game is pretty interesting. DraftKings, no, I don't use DraftKings because no free ads. A certain website that I use to make certain picks has the game set at 64. 64 for the total. And Tech is a 6-point dog in this game to Arizona. I don't know, man. I think this is going to look a lot like the Bearcats game this past weekend.
I mean, here's the thing. Arizona could be caught in a look-ahead game because they're so concerned with BYU, just like you were. So, so maybe Texas Tech sneaks in and catches them off guard. We'll see. It'll definitely be a fun game. It'll be another shootout. Maybe Texas Tech is just involved in shootouts this entire year.
Yeah. We should
ride that. We should ride every Texas Tech over until it fails us.
I'm sure they're going to cover many of those.
Yeah.
I think they're going to hit the over on plenty of games for the rest of the season. With that said, this is the game that like the Big 12 has been looking forward to. When you were bringing in the Pac-12, you wanted that like super high-powered offense. You wanted a really like punchy kind of team. Getting that with Arizona and getting some excitement. Arizona, it was like the Pac-12's sort of Texas Tech when it came to the way that they can light up the field and score. Granted, not long-term. Arizona's a little bit fresher to some of the recent winnings. However, interesting game. Very exciting here. I think that this one should be pretty solidly on the over. I'm going to take in this game. This feels dangerous. I'm going to take Tech to cover. I'm going to take Arizona to win, and I'm going to take the over. So weird line there. Tech's going to cover the 6 points. Arizona's going to win. It's going to be a close game, but Arizona's going to win, and they're both going to, the team that is going to hit the over.
You're making me rethink my picks because once again, you've chosen everything I was going to say. Justin, you scrambling is not
You can
beneficial for the show.
You can choose the same line. That's fine. Ride or die, baby.
Ride
We
or
ride
die.
together.
Fine, let's do it. Ride or die.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. We have one different pick there. And remember, the listeners, and I guess I could run a Super Sim this week. Super Sim fucking over this past week. Not great there. Not great. Actually, no, I lied. No, never mind. That was the week before. The week before, the Super Sim did very poorly. It was like 0 for 3. Regardless, that was way too long on a section that was supposed to go much faster.
Not
Joel,
even about the Bearcats.
not even about the Bearcats. People are just
all right. We're about to make Speedy Gonzalez look like regular Gonzalez the way that we're about to fly through the rest of the show. Justin, let's go.
Let's go. Okay, Joel, we have some picks for you this week. And guess what? I already gave you one of them, so I'm going to just say it real quick, and we're going to move on. Texas Tech at Arizona. Great game. Take the over. It's 64. Go ahead.
Number 25, UNLV. In the media this past week for a bunch of NIL weird things, quarterback backing out, but then they show up on Saturday. Backup quarterback absolutely throws the lights out of the stadium. So UNLV is favorited by 7 points against Syracuse at home on Friday night. I think UNLV will blow them out of the water.
Very fair. Very fair. I got another one for you here. Auburn at Georgia. Guess what, folks? This is a 24-point spread. That's dangerous because that's a pretty high number, and it is the SEC. However, Georgia, they just lost their first regular season game in God knows how many years. They're going to be pissed off, in many other words that you cannot use on live radio TV. So I speak that as if we speak live on radio or any sort of telecommunications. That would be very fair. They're not happy right now, and Auburn is not good. Trust me, Auburn is not good. I think that Georgia's going to cover that 24-point spread at home. No questions asked.
My next one, Justin, fun fact for you. Who do you think flies more, the Navy or the Air Force?
The Air Force.
Seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
You are wrong. The Navy flies more than the Air Force, both in real life and on the gridiron. Over under in that game right now is 34.5. Let me just run you through Navy's points scored so far this week by game. 49, 38, 56, and 41. Just any game that they've played in this year so far, they would single-handedly cover this over in this game, 34.5. I'm betting the over in that one just because I think Navy 4-0 this year. They got a high-powered offense. Let it fly.
Very fair. Let it fly. Take that, Chair Force. All right. Guess what? We got the last one in here, and then we are going to move on with Joel's going to give us his last one, actually, but I'm going to give you my last one. Last game of the week, SMU at number 22 Louisville in the not Yum Center in Louisville. SMU looking probably stronger than I would have expected at the beginning of this year. I thought they were going to go into the ACC and get mollywopped, and they're looking very serviceable. They beat the brakes off of TCU in the Iron Skillet game. Louisville, tough team. I think it's going to be a close game. However, I like this line. SMU right now, plus 200. I would take them. They're 7-point dogs in this game. I think there's a chance that they could go in there and maybe win that. Is it likely? No. Could it happen? Might as well throw $1 or $2 on it.
That's fair. My final pick of the week, I am hitting the well again. I'm going back to Cal. The woke mob agenda is still so great on Twitter. Even
woke versus Coke.
Woke versus Coke. Even losing to Florida State, they still came out on top in terms of the Twitter handles. They're 10-point underdogs hosting the U. It's their first ever time hosting game day. I think they're going to show up. They're just a fun team and easy to root for. So why not?
Very fair. Very fair. I like it a lot. Joel, while we're at it, hit me with your Electric Factory game of the week.
There's not too many exciting games for this week. The only ranked top 25 matchup is Mizzou at Texas A&M. It's a 9 versus 25. So, we'll see how that goes. But nothing really popped at me. I did think SMU and Louisville will be a fun game, but you've already gotten that covered. So we'll see. I will say, I don't think we'll be too focused on football this weekend because the Bearcats are off. And the entire reason I'm here on this show for the last few weeks and probably for a couple more is because our good friend and your co-host Steve is getting married this Friday night back home here in Cincinnati. So college football will not be on our minds at all this weekend. We are 100% celebrating him. Congratulations to Steve and Emma. And they are my electric game of the week.
Very nice. I like that. You know what? I like that so much that I can't even pick a game this week.
There you go.
Go Mowers. It's the
Go
Mowers Electric Factory wedding of the week. That's what we've got. Again, by the time that you guys listen to the show, it will still be before the wedding. However, by the time we hit next week's show, they will have officially married. So congratulations to you two.
Great wording.
Yeah, very, very great wording. Very excited for you two and your futures together. And it's going to be a fun honeymoon. So congrats to those two. Joel, we've covered a bunch. Real quick, let's just hit it. That Big 12 head-to-head has a nice little line here, and that is good for you and not for me. Good for you and Steve, not for me. This week, my Big 12 draft team did terrible. 2-5 and had one bye. I have been crushing it week by week. Very bad this week. Very bad this week.
Yeah.
Joel, how did y'all's team do?
Boy, we did the exact opposite. We went 5-2 on a team that I did not pick at all, but I am flying high and feeling great. We have narrowed that gap in terms of winning percentage. I think that we now hold the lead. You are sitting for the season at 26-14. After a 5-2 week, we are now 25-12. So we have a race.
A race indeed. A race indeed. Well, maybe we'll catch up. Maybe we'll catch up again. Even though it's a Bearcats bye week, these games still move. So we'll see what happens. But, Joel, guess what?
What?
We have a little friend that we're now 50 minutes in the show. We're getting to this point because we're going to have a fast back half of the show, like you said. Speedy Gonzalez, our good friends, Charlie Hustle, always bringing the heat every single week. They've got you covered all season long for the fall, for the winter, for football, for basketball, summer clothes, you name it. They got you something. They got t-shirts, they got jackets, they got hoodies, long sleeves, anything you want, you name it, they got it. So head over to the website, www.charliehustle.com. Shout out Pete Rose.com. Rest in peace to the king, Hit King. Head over to charliehustle.com this week and use that promo code 101215 for 15% off. We have some great shirts here. We're just going to show them to you real quick. This week, Joel picked Iowa State. I picked BYU. BY by. They do not have a game this week. However, they do have a beautiful shirt for Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Love this shirt from them. From Charlie Hustle, some great gear here, as well as the hoodie for Iowa State. Great little. I love that Psy mascot. It's like it's cute and endearing, but it's fun and it's classic retro. So really love that look. Overall, like we said, plenty of great gear. They've got all of the Big 12 teams covered. So head over to their site, use that promo code 101215 for 15% off of all non-sale items. That is good throughout the entire rest of the season as long as we keep giving you that ad. So make sure to use it up. Christmas is coming sooner than you think. Joel, Big 12 head-to-head. We've already covered some of this. We're just going to get into the rest of it. We have some award winners this week. Some of them very deserving. Not as crazy of a week as last week, but certainly an interesting one. Joel, we have, shout out to our sponsors, Charlie Hustle, a Charlie Hustle Hustler of the Week. Who might that be? It's about time this guy got this.
It's none other than Sorsby. Sorsby, the GOAT. Sorsby, the kid. I'm struggling to come up with more nicknames, so we'll just call him our hustler of the week.
Absolutely. Brendan Sorsby, hustler of the week. And in case you needed that stat line, 31 for 45, 426 yards passing, 52 yards rushing. And if you do some quick maths, that is 477 yards all purpose, 4 passing touchdowns. Whoo boy, that is your Charlie Hustle hustler of the week. Guess what? We're not done yet. We got more. We got the Aspirinaholic game of the week. BYU Baylor. BYU.
Hey, BYU. There you go.
5-0. 5-0. They creep. Baylor made this a game in the second half. It certainly, watching this one live, it looked like BYU was just going to put like 60 on Baylor in their own stadium. And Baylor found a way to make it a game. Credit to Dave Aranda for trying to push for a comeback. However, he's probably still going to get fired. BYU wins Aspirinaholic game of the week. Joel, who's our bozo? Who's our bozo?
I think we have two this week. Both for on-field performance. Starting off just with Houston. Once again, a shutout in back-to-back weeks. You're supposed to score points. I don't think they know that. I think that makes them a bozo. And then our second bozo of the week is Utah, or Utah, for all my musical theater nerds out there. Just faking like they're a top 10 team, I guess, both on Twitter and on the field. One of the most vocal fan bases, and oh boy, it felt good seeing that score come across your TV.
Yep. You guys get the bozo because y'all said that you would beat the brakes off of the Big 12.
And they didn't even beat the brakes off of their former Pac-12 member.
Yeah. And Arizona is a good enough team this year. They are 3-1, but they don't look consistent, if anything else. And Utah, if you want to be a top 10 team, if you want to be an upper echelon Big 12 team, as you all said that you would, you got to win that game, especially at home in your own stadium. And I don't care if Cam Rising is dead or alive, or if he started college in 2016, the same year that I did. I was in a 5-year program and I've been out of school for 4 years now. So make that math work. Sorry, 3 years. Not good at math, designer. And that's how we end up here. Joel, last thing here, and we will move on. The most watchable game of the week feels like it's easier said than done. That was not the lingo I was looking for. Easy pick. Bearcats, Texas Tech. As we said, shootout, lots of points put on the board there. Not a lot of defense, but that's classic Big 12. It was exciting. It was fun to watch. If you were a fan of either team, or if you were not a fan of either team and you're watching this game, great watchability. God, I cannot speak. Get me out of here.
You are struggling tonight, my boy. Look, I think a lot of people came into this weekend thinking that Colorado UCF was going to be the game of the week, and that did not even look close. Colorado beat the brakes off of UCF, and it led the way for Cincy Texas Tech to be easily the most watchable game this week.
Absolutely. No questions asked there.
Mm-hmm.
Joel, that wraps up our Big 12 head-to-head. We have 2 more items on the docket before we finish out with our Bearcat Sports wrap-up, which will probably not be properly organized because Steve's not here. Rest in peace, brother. All right. We have 2 topics. Very important, though. Realignment, which we could talk about for an eternity, and Nip at Night. Let's start with Nip at Night. We'll go to realignment, and we'll finish off with the wrap-up. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Nip at Night. What is going on? We've just touched on this as a fan base. We've touched on this on the show, but we haven't really dug into it. This was like a staple of Cincinnati Bearcats football. This was just a thing that was like our thing, where it was like, no matter what, like the Bearcats were playing in black, triple black at night, and y'all had some vibes. Like the stadium was packed and it was fun. Now We play at noon and then you go to sleep at like 7 p.m. Like this is like grandpa's favorite team. I don't like it. I don't like it. What's going on here?
Look, getting up early for tailgate, not always the best thing. Sitting there in the middle of the day. Look, football is football. We love our Bearcats. We love going to games. We love watching games. But damn, why can't they be at night? Like you said, nip at night, like one of our staples. And maybe it's just because we've struggled for the last couple of years leading into this. So maybe we have to just regain our relevance. But yeah, it's just something that we were used to. And of course, more game times will be announced later on in the season. But even next week, the UCF game was just announced for 3:30. And granted, that's away, but still, like, we had the night game at Texas Tech. We deserve one of these later games at home. And until we get one at home, we will fight the good fight.
Yeah. Dude, like Nip Under the Lights is just spectacular.
It's electric.
It is such a great atmosphere, and to not have it like just sucks, honestly. And it feels like it's just been that one extra like missing thing where you look at last year, you look at this year, and it's like, let's just bring the fun back. Let's bring the vibes back. Like that's one of the things that I think was just so magical, has been for so long. And again, like a lot of it comes to TV schedules, it comes to relevancy. If you're the primetime game, if you're not, if you're at home, if you're away. But guess what? It seems like almost no matter what, the only reason that we played at night in Lubbock is because it's the desert. They have to play at night. They can't play during the day. They'll die. Everybody will have heat stroke. Like, you can't do it.
Yep.
You're playing this game, like you're playing any of these games at home, you got to find a way somewhere in the scheduling system to get a game at night because, I want to say it's part of that scheduling, but maybe it's just the difference in TV contracts. I know we're not playing many games on the ESPN Plus or Facebook Live anymore. Shout out Marshall. We still remember that game. That was great. Murphy's watch party. Joel was with me.
That was great.
Great time. Great time.
Hooking up the laptop via HDMI to Murphy's TVs at the bar.
Yes.
Great time. Great
circumstances. A long time ago. God, that was forever ago. But yeah, I mean, you want to find a way to get some of these games on the schedule, and I think it makes sense. You're not playing in the American anymore, but you seem to have so many more night games in the American.
Maybe that's because we were just the darling of the conference. Like, we were one of the top teams, so we got the time slot. But we'll see. There's still a lot of season ahead, so we're hoping and praying. Whoever's out there listening that has any sort of sway, please get us Nip at night this year.
Please, we want it. Maybe West Virginia will be the one. We'll see.
Possible.
Should be a little bit of a heater there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Joel, our last topic, which we saved for last because it's the end of the show and it's about anything other than the Bearcats. But unfortunately, this conversation will probably wrap into the Bearcats at some point in the future because this conversation never dies. Realignment, it's still very much alive. There are many different moving parts to this at all times. You're seeing so much backlash. You're seeing so many people for it, so many people against it. The news of late, the Pac-12 lives on again, and it is the constant cycle of something dies and something is born from it. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, except it's a phoenix covered in, I don't know. I don't know. It's just ugly. Like, what are we doing here? Like, the Pac-12 has had an identity for so long with so many core teams that the Pac-12 was built on USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, all of these classic kind of teams. And now we're just going to throw all these Mountain West teams in there and call it the Pac-12. Call it what it is. It's the Mountain West expanded. It's the big Mountain West. We want a playoff bid Mountain West, but it's still not going to be respected. Like, I hate this shit, man. It's stupid.
Look, whoever has custom conferences on is not doing a very good job with them right now. Conferences should be regional rivalries, regional relevance, sections of the country that you can travel to those games. Because it's not just about football. It's about volleyball, baseball, track and field, swimming. Like, it's about all these other smaller sports that, hey, their games are on Tuesday nights. Guess what? They have to miss 2-3 entire days of their classes just to travel from
Yep.
UCLA all the way to Rutgers or vice versa. It doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. And so the news of the Pac-12, of course, having to add multiple members in order to stay with their bid as a football conference, they are poaching from the Mountain West, which then leaves the Mountain West needing new members. And a rumor came that the Pac-12 was going to look at MAC schools, which don't you dare touch the MAC. The MAC is perfect as is. It is our last regional conference left. Don't you dare touch that Pac-12.
Yeah.
And then you also had the Big Ten and the SEC rumors flying about they're looking for 4 playoff spots each guaranteed moving forward. Like at some point, the money can't win. At some point, all these other conferences have to stand up and say, "Hold up, like this isn't fair."
Mhm.
I It's just so frustrating to not be in Alabama, a Georgia, an Ohio State, a Michigan, like to be one of the littler guys, not necessarily as small as, any team that's still in the AAC or in Conference USA or even the Mount West now. But it still just sucks. Like as a fan, as a lover of the sport, why are you taking these storied rivalries, these historic conference? Why are you taking these away from us? So that
Yeah.
is why I love every time booting up NCAA, like with the newest game,
Mhm.
with NCAA 14, playing it this many years, always having custom conferences on because you can keep the regional rivalries alive. We can break into that a whole nother episode because we're already running over an hour, but it's just so frustrating to see as a fan that this just keeps chipping away at what we've been used to and what frankly should be in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the part that really just bothers me with it is more than anything how much tradition just gets thrown out the door.
Mm.
And it's not like everything has to stay the same forever, but like, god damn it, this is sports. Like this is football. Like this is a thing that people grow up with. It's families marrying into rivalries. It's the people who grow up loving a team and watching these teams play the not even just the same teams. And it's exciting to get different matchups. It's exciting to have some change, but it's all of these rivalries that have lasted for so long just dying. I mean, you're seeing it all across the country. Like teams are choosing maybe one rival that they feel as valuable, and they're throwing 80 plus years of games against another team out the door for what? Like I understand that. Like the money is going to move. However, with the way things are right now in the world, uh, speaking outside of sports, speaking inside of sports, there's so much just like everything has to change and everything has to be about the money and everything has to be yada yada yada. Like some things are just good as they are too.
Yep.
Like and I think that's one of the things is like football feels like that one like kind of safe place for a lot of people where it's like this is the thing that you look forward to each week. This is the thing that you grew up with and you grow and you pass on to your kids and you pass on to your friends and pass on to your family. These type of rivalries, these types of traditions. And unfortunately, so much of this just dies and for nothing, for money.
Yep.
And so, I think that's the thing that really sucks. I think, the whole thing with the Mountain West, like I said, like we all look at it and it's like the Mountain West, does it have a lot of pride as a conference? No. Does it matter that they're getting sucked in the Pac 12? It is what it is. But we all know that what's happening with that conference is they're just trying to, reface the Pac 12, but it's never going to be what it was.
No.
So it's like, what is the point of doing all this? We're not really actually getting where we want to be. And I don't see how this conversation gets better in the future without, like you said, a lot of conferences putting their foot down and saying what the American has said this past week, which is actually kind of funny, looking at the grand scheme of things and how you look at what happened with the Big Ten and the Pac 12 and their sort of alliances that immediately died. But the Americans saying we're going to have teams that are going to stand together and we're going to like try to protect our conference and not get poached and we're going to keep these teams together. You see the whole thing with the ACC. There's a reason that they had so many lofty protections on their conferences, and why it's so hard for FSU and for Clemson to leave. And it's for good reason. You're signing these types of contracts that really hurt you if you try to leave because it's about protecting that. So I don't know. It's it's like I said, it's one of these things that just it really grinds my gears, and I hope that we find a way to fix this in the future. But for the short term, I don't think it gets any better. I think it only gets worse.
Yeah. And it'll always be a topic of conversation. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing. You can use any adjective under the sun that you want to describe it. But at the end of the day, it's a reality. And it's just a sad reality that hopefully, one day history is restored and common sense prevails. Because why are we having these teams travel that far across the country for any reason other than money? And there is none. Money talks, and unfortunately it's kind of taken over the sport that we all love. And not just football, it's affecting all these other sports and all these other athletes' lives and students' lives. You pride yourself on being a conference of or a league of student athletes. Well, at what point does student play a factor in that? It can't just be about football, and unfortunately it kind of is, just because it's the biggest sport and it's the most profitable sport. But this is our old man yelling at cloud, but I think I think these old men have the same thoughts and feelings as a lot of the country.
Yep, absolutely, 100% agree with that. Well, that was a sad way to get to the end of the show.
Let's end on a positive.
Let's end on a positive.
How'd the Bearcats do this week, Justin?
Let's end on a positive. Bearcat Sports Wrap Up still can never be as good as Steve doing it, because he makes it happen so fast and so succinct. But
and at this point, we don't want it to work well, because it's the one reason that we need Steve to come back to the show.
Correct. Well, for the Bearcats Sports Wrap Up, if we're going all the way back to last week, here we go. Women's volleyball won 3-0 on sets at West Virginia in Morgantown. What's going on here, folks? This women's volleyball team is playing otherworldly skill levels. Like they're just doing the thing. I think this might be our third sport officially. I think it's going to have to be. And
we declared ourselves a volleyball school back when Jordan Thompson was here. So I don't know what you're saying, how it's just happening. We've been a volleyball school.
You're right. Women's soccer lost 0-2 at Arizona, unfortunately in Tucson this past Thursday. Women's tennis then played in the Milwaukee Classic. With that said, overall, wow, these are some names. You're going to have to forgive me. Junior Rosala Gruzinska. I think I got that right. Maybe. That's a tough one. Picked up the lone Cincinnati win at the tournament in the consolation bracket, defeating Marquette's Andy Weiss 6-2 and 7-6. And the doubles pair of sophomore Gabrielle Gunther and aforementioned Gruzinska fell in a tightly knit battle against Houston's duo of Valeria Kroll. Man, they were doing Houston. They lost to Houston. We're going to move on. I cannot say any of these names. These are a mouthful. These always see, this is what Steve's good for. Anyways, oh God, let's go back to where we were. Anyways, please forgive me. That happened. Baseball had a scrimmage. That was canceled. So that did not get played. Of course, Bearcats football, you know what happened there. We've been through that. Women's soccer lost 1-3 in Tempe. Of course, they had to make the rounds while they're out in Arizona. So 1-3 loss there, unfortunately, for the ladies. And women's golf, starting off that Pat Bradley Invitational in Miami. More to come from there. That's still wrapping up. I don't believe we have a final. Looking forward through the rest of this week, women's volleyball plays at Iowa State in Ames tomorrow night, 7:30. Baseball has another open scrimmage. I don't remember if this is a rescheduled one or just a secondary one. Women's tennis plays at the Pam Whitehead Fall Invitational. Cross country is at the Joe Piant Notre Dame Invitational, and swimming and diving gets started there with the red versus black this coming Friday. And then for the weekend schedule, of course, no football. Guess what else you got? You got women's volleyball versus UCF in Fifth Third. Get there, get your asses in the seats, and cheer on your ladies volleyball team because they're killing it. They're looking really good right now. If you all want to know just how good they are, look at the record. Just look at the record. I mean, these ladies are killing it right now. They are absolutely killing it. I think there's a lot of skill there. There's a lot of potential. Who knows? Like this is a tournament quality team. This is an NCAA volleyball tournament quality team. So I don't know. Joel, get me out of here. I'm gonna keep talking.
I was going to say my only final thoughts from the show was this is an embarrassing one for you, both with your BYU pick, your name pronunciations. So we'll put in the work and we'll be better next week.
It's a busy week at work. Give me a break. Damn it.
Maybe we should do a Twitter Spaces live at the Maurer wedding this Friday.
Ooh. Steve, what's the over-under on the number? Actually, here we go. All right. What is we're gonna take the total here. We're gonna have to make sure we're gonna have to keep track of Steve's drinks. What is the total of drinks that Steve will consume before the end of his wedding?
Total.
We're
gonna have to have a man on the inside count from any pre-gaming.
Wedding day total.
I mean, I think 10.5 is still a very generous take the over. It's probably up there. We'll say 12.5.
We'll say 12.5 feels very fair. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Feels accurate.
I'm going to take the over. Hammer Steve.
Hammer the over.
Hammer the over. Again, congratulations, buddy. We hope you have a whole lot of fun, and we're going to be there having fun with you. Again, apologies for tripping over my words so much this week. It's there's a lot in the brain. We're going to go watch other people trip over words as well. Happy Tuesday night. Joel, got anything else for us?
Go Bearcats as always.
Go Bearcats as always. Thank you for joining us this week on the bye week, which, of course, with less to talk about, has to be longer than any other episode because it's the bye week. It just makes sense. We are just rambling here. So thank you for joining us this week. As always, make sure to check out the 1012 Network. Make sure to check out our sponsors, Charlie Hustle. Use that promo code 101215 for 15% off of all non-sale items on their website, which again is www.charliehustle.com. And RIP to the Hit King. Cincinnati is going to be tough without him. However, Reds, you always got next year. Joel, thank you for joining me this week. Let's have some fun. Go Steve.
Go Steve.
Viva La Steve.
La Steve.
Viva La Mauers.
And as always, Viva
La Cat.